Okay, so speaking of the injuries, I gotta ask you about the Matthews stuff, which I don't even know what to expect from like an answer or where we're even really gonna go with this discussion. But it's just so wild to me that he goes, he misses games again after he takes the cross check against, it was the Sabres, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he takes the cross check against the Sabres. He misses some time. You guys get to speak with him. He mentions that I think that he said the cross check didn't help things along the way, but also that he wasn't sure it was an injury that he was going to be able to get over during the season. But that then he comes back and he plays what I thought was one of his most complete and healthy-looking games of the season on a Saturday night. Shortly afterwards, doesn't look like fatigued or beat up or slow by any stretch of the imagination against Philly on a back-to-back. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty encouraged by this. What is your read here? What is your understanding of this? How are we meant to project this moving forward? The timeline, all of this, because it's exhausting, it's confusing. It's a lot of different things.
My read is the player wants to play. He wants to play for the Leafs. He hates sitting back and just watching, and he wants to play in the Four Nations.
Mm-hmm.
And he's giving it as strong of a go as he can. He doesn't want to take days off or games off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some maintenance days and he skips some practices, though, as they try to manage it. So he's indicated that rest helps whatever this ailment is. So Berube is, I think, going to limit his minutes a little bit, although, you're coaching in a one-goal game, and almost every Leafs game is a one-goal game these days. You get tempted, you throw him out 6-on-5, but Berube's going to try and limit his minutes a little bit more. I think they're going to take it a bit easy on practices, but Matthews wants to push through the pain here a little bit, the discomfort, and fans are probably going to be on the edge of their seat every time he takes a cross check or a hard hit. But I am encouraged by what I saw this weekend. I'm
encouraged too.
I was surprised how good he looked.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised how good he looked.
Impossible not to be surprised. Again, he did the smart move, which was to set the bar low, talking about how he wasn't sure he'll get over the injury during the season, and then coming out and looking his absolute best, because we all had to basically recalibrate our expectations on the fly watching him in that game. It's just, this will still bother me, and whatever, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and if he's healthy enough throughout the stretch, then I guess it is what it is, and he goes and plays for the Four Nations. The thing you mentioned there, the second part where you go, and he really wants to play in the Four Nations. Yeah, everyone should, right? I want all players to want to play in the Four Nations. I want all players to have the drive to want to play for their country. But for an injury that does require rest, an injury that does need to be mitigated, an injury that might not heal over the course of a regular season, I just hope that none of the timeline has to do with having enough of a runway ahead of this tournament to justify the decision to go. Because that to me is actually the scary outcome if you're invested in the Leafs.
What if he plays every game from now up until the tournament?
I mean, you can't say no. I've put my stake in the ground on this. I think that if rest and recovery is going to have a real meaningful impact on him, which I think we can say conclusively it does, especially given the way they've handled it, but also the way that this whole thing even started, which was when the Leafs had their lull in the schedule, right? In November or December? No, it was November. Their lull in November where they had 3 games in 12 days or whatever. The big talking point was this is awesome because we can skip a few games for Matthews and he essentially ends up getting 2 weeks of rest without missing any games. It's hard for me to understand as if I'm just putting on Leaf fan shoes, it's hard for me to understand how the captain of the team would make the decision to go play for his country ahead of putting his team first, given the injury. If he gets hurt at that tournament, I've said it and I'll say it again, it will irreparably alter his perception in the city forever, and unless he wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but it's an if. The tournament is 3 or 4 games.
Yep,
that's it. And this is a proud American and there will be pressure from U.S. hockey and from Gary Bettman. You know, he's one of the faces of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's healthy, he's playing. Or if he's healthy, if he's 80% healthy, whatever he is right now, he's playing.
Don't love it. I just can't. I just can't. And this has nothing to do with the Canadian thing. I would genuinely be saying the same thing if it was Mitch Marner. Like if it was Mitch Marner and this was the exact situation, I would be going, you cannot go, you cannot go, you cannot go. The only difference is that I genuinely believe there's an added emphasis to being the captain of the team, having just taken on this role this year and, showing your group, like leading by example and saying, like, I'm not good to go. I know what the stakes are here, and they're far greater than winning the Four Nations tournament for the Americans. Like, I'll get them next year in the Olympics. Anyway, only a couple more for you. I want to ask you about Philip Myers. So he gets this contract extension. It's kind of a nothing burger in terms of risk, right? It's like $800K, same thing. Like, okay, 2 years of a guy who's a right shot D who's big. What is your understanding, though, of the internal view of this player?
They like him.
Yeah.
And the coach especially. So Treliving and Berube are aligned in that they love their defenseman big, right? So he's a big righty, whatever. He has the right attitude. That's the other thing. We talked about this guy, and he's like, he's just thrilled to be here. And it's usually a guy that gets healthy scratched and barely plays for the first 2 months of the season. You sense frustration from him, and that's not the case with him. So I think he has the right attitude to be 6, 7, 8, whatever it is. Pop in, pop out. And Berube's a big fan. And I think he loves the fact that he doesn't hesitate to shoot it. You know, he doesn't have a goal yet, but he plays the way Berube wants guys to play, which is a little bit physical and just simple. Like, you get the puck at the point, blast it, and hope for the best. And my sense from the player is he's been, he's turned into a bit of a journeyman, like fringe guy. The fact that there's actual term on this deal, he was thrilled. He's like, they're going to give me 2 years? Great. Even though it's less than $1 million. And it's very low risk. And injuries to defensemen happen all the time. So I think it's fine. It's fine. And it's going to look even better when the cap goes up. And even if he has to spend some time in the Marlies or up in the press box, it's not going to hurt you. I think it's fine. No,
I think it's fine. I wonder if they think he can be a Benoit, where there's like a little bit more than what are you trying to win on this contract, or are you looking at this contract as just simply, this is what he is. He's $800K player. And if we get that, that's all we really want out of this.
Yeah, and I think, it also keeps guys like Connor Timmins honest. Like, Connor Timmins had a nice stretch of hockey. He dipped a little. Someone's coming for his job. I think that's a really good thing to have on the edges of your lineup.
I agree.
You know what? Yeah.
I agree, but I also want to see it at the top of the lineup too sometimes. Like when William Nylander stays out for a 4-minute shift, you're like, hey, there's going to be some discussion about this. I love the accountability stuff, but there's a reason for the saying, and I believe in Australia, is like accountability sounds at the top. And so if the internal competitions and the accountability only comes at the bottom of the roster, I think you have no accountability at all. So at some point this year, I do hope we get one of those moments where it's like, hey, we're checking the big guys too.
There was a really small one. So, Nylander was playing PP1 and PP2.
Yep, I know.
There's a couple games back, they made a switch and had he threw Marner out for the extra PP2, and they actually scored. So,
all it took was an entire season of Nylander never scoring on the second unit.
Yeah. He's in one of his funks, but he'll snap out of it.
Yeah, 7 games without a goal for Nylander. So, yeah.
Well, look at some of the centermen he had for some of those games, though.
Yeah.
Holmberg and Kampf. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, don't disrespect David Kampf. Don't throw him in the mix with this Holmberg. I won't accept that.
Leafs all in on center hunt. Treliving's bold moves could shape Toronto's future. As a die-hard Toronto Maple Leaf supporter, it's hard not to get excited about the latest trade buzz surrounding the team. Brad Treliving, the Leafs general manager, appears poised to make some daring moves to strengthen the squad's depth down the middle. The whispers of significant trades are growing louder, and Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet has added fuel to the fire with his recent revelations. The situation has become even more pressing as the Leafs grapple with the ongoing upper body injury to team captain Auston Matthews. Matthews has already missed the last 4 games, and while the team is doing its best to stay afloat, the need for reinforcements at center is undeniable. Treliving, it seems, is ready to part with valuable assets to address this glaring need. The centers on Treliving's radar. Names like Jake Evans from the Montreal Canadiens, Brock Nelson from the New York Islanders, and the Philadelphia Flyers' Morgan Frost have been mentioned as potential targets. These players bring a mix of experience and skill, each offering something unique to the Leafs lineup. But, as Friedman highlighted during his appearance on the Fan 590's The Fan Hockey Show, the price tags for these players vary significantly. That's the number one thing he's, Treliving, been looking at all season, Friedman noted, emphasizing the GM's focus on finding the right fit at center. This isn't just about plugging a hole, it's about finding a player who can elevate the team to new heights. Priorities in focus. While some fans might argue that the Leafs need help on defense, Friedman suggested that Treliving's primary focus is elsewhere. They did a lot of their work in the off-season. I think now there's a question if they need to go find someone to play with Morgan Rielly, he explained. But, it's not their number one priority. I believe their number one thing all season has been, let's find another center. This clear focus on center depth speaks volumes about Treliving's strategy. The Leafs are willing to pay a hefty price, but there's a caveat: the player must come with term. Why term matters? The preference for term isn't just a strategic move, it's a sign that Treliving is thinking long-term. Rentals can be tempting, especially for a team looking to make a deep playoff run, but they often come with risks. One of the things I've heard is that if they're going to spend assets on a center, they would prefer it to be someone with term, Friedman revealed. This approach ensures that any trade made benefits the Leafs beyond the immediate future. Internal struggles and potential fits. Internally, the Leafs have tried to find solutions. Fraser Minton showed promise earlier this season, but the organization prefers to let him develop further with the Marlies. Meanwhile, the Leafs' current lineup has struggled to maintain its depth in Matthews' absence. One intriguing option could be Vincent Trocheck from the New York Rangers. With the Rangers facing their own challenges, could they be persuaded to part with a player like Trocheck, who already has chemistry with Leaf stars from last year's All-Star game? The road ahead. As the calendar flips to 2025, the trade deadline looms larger. Treliving's actions in the coming months will undoubtedly shape the Leafs' playoff aspirations and potentially their long-term future. For Leafs fans, the anticipation is palpable. Every move, every rumor, and every game feels like a piece of the puzzle. Treliving's willingness to swing for the fences shows a commitment to bringing a championship to Toronto, a dream that has eluded the franchise for far too long. Why this matters? This isn't just another season. This is a chance for the Leafs to solidify their identity as a contender. With Matthews expected to return and the possibility of a major trade to bolster the lineup, the team is poised to make a statement. Treliving's boldness, combined with the team's potential, makes it an exhilarating time to be a Leafs fan. Whether it's Evans, Nelson, Frost, or another unexpected addition, one thing is clear: the Leafs are in it to win it. So, buckle up, Leafs Nation. The journey ahead promises to be as thrilling as it is unpredictable. Treliving's moves could define the legacy of this team, and, hopefully, end the championship drought that has haunted Toronto for decades. The weight of expectations. The Leafs are no strangers to the pressure of the spotlight. Toronto is a hockey city, and the Maple Leafs are its beating heart. Every move made by management is scrutinized, every decision debated endlessly by fans and analysts alike. Treliving stepped into a challenging role when he took over as GM, and his willingness to take bold steps shows he understands the weight of these expectations. What makes this moment particularly critical is the team's current window of contention. With stars like Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander in their